Hello and welcome to the Discover History YouTube channel, and today we're going to take a look at the answer to our Monday mystery. So if you remember, our Monday mystery involved an object that was made predominantly of antler, so a deer's antler, and also a small amount of copper. So straight away you're probably thinking this must be something pretty old, because we've got a natural material like antler, very much like wood or something like that, but we've also got a very early form of metal. And I say that because really when you get the Stone Age, we then move into a very short period of copper use, so you could probably call it a copper age. However, we very rarely designate that period. And then because they're mixing lots of metals together, including tin and copper, they're creating bronze, and that then leads you on to the Bronze Age, and then eventually into the Iron Age. So the object was this here. So like I said, it's predominantly a piece of antler, so most of it is made up of an antler, very much like a handle, especially like the handles on Victorian cutlery in some cases. And then we've got that small piece of copper in the top there, a very small piece of copper to be fair. So we had a few different guesses. We had people message us. We had some comments made on Twitter, on Facebook, and we have two winners. We have two winners this week, and I thought this was going to be a very difficult one. However, we do have two winners with this one. The first one is Craig, who seems to enter this competition regularly and get it right regularly. And I must say, Craig has nothing to do with Discover History whatsoever. He's just very good at guessing our Monday mystery, so well done there. The other one is another regular visitor to our social media and also our YouTube channel, and that's Squizzles, I think it is his name, which I think is Chris, I think his real name. You have both got the correct answer. So what is this object? Well, it is in fact something that we would call today a pressure flaker. And a pressure flaker is something from prehistory. So it's pre-Roman, pre-Iron Age, in fact. And these come in different styles. We do know that deer pressure flakers were in existence in the Stone Age for intricate flint knapping, for example, for the smaller objects. So we're not talking about spearheads and things like that. We're talking about smaller objects. And we also know that some were made out of wood and bone, but antler seems to be the best thing, mainly because it's so strong, it's so hard, and can be used in a very easy way. And there would have been a lot of it around. You have to remember, deer was a big part of prehistoric diets, and there were more deer around then than there is today. So it's a byproduct, very much like Stone Age people are wearing the skin, they're using the blood, they're eating the meat, they're using the sinew, the ligaments as such, really, to make things such as cordage for sewing clothing together and all sorts of things like that. But then when we get that period right at the end of the Stone Age and just on the eve of the Bronze Age, we do get copper being used. So this is actually a copper flaker. So this is something that would have been around in the small period, as I mentioned, that copper was being used, but more so in the Bronze Age. And I think that's absolutely fascinating, because people often think that we stop using stone, full stop, and we go straight into using bronze in the Bronze Age. And that is very much a wrong idea. What you have to remember is flint is such a good material, there's no point in throwing it away. When bronze comes out, and we're making all sorts of things from bronze, including things like armour to a certain degree, and definitely weapons like swords and spears, that sort of thing, it's interesting, that metal is so expensive, very hard to get hold of, very hard to get hold of someone that knows how to make it to start with, because remember, it's a tin and copper combined. It's easier just to use flint. So a lot of flint was used throughout the Bronze Age as well. So this is in fact very much a Bronze Age flaker, pressure flaker, basically. I'll briefly show how it's used, but obviously there is a little rule when it comes to working flint or flint knapping, and it's not advisable to do it in the area that you are inhabiting. For example, it's not advisable to do it in your front room, in your living room, bedroom, or anything like that. Main reason for that is flint is unbelievably sharp, and just like a glass, it is very hard to ensure that you've picked up every single piece. So if I start flint knapping here, I may lose bits of flint down the back of the sofa. Not a good idea if you put your hand down to get a pen, for example, as it will slice your hand open. Not a good idea on the floor generally, because if you're walking around without any shoes on, you are likely to stand in a splinter or a flake of flint, and it will literally slice through your foot. If you don't get it out, obviously that can also lead to infection. So flint is a lethal thing. So what you would need to do first is get hold of a nodule of flint. And remember, we're talking about Bronze Age specifically now. And what you would do is knap that. Now, I'm not going to show you how to do that. That could actually be a video in its own right, flint knapping. But you usually hit it with things like hammerstones or even deer antler hammers. And you're cracking the flint open. What you don't want is this outer layer. What you do want is the dark core of the flint, and what you'll end up with is lots and lots of shards of flint. And I don't know if you can hear that, but it sounds like glass. It is pretty lethal stuff. And when you hold some of it to the light, I don't think you'll be able to see that from here, you can see through it, and it is unbelievably narrow. It is the equivalent of having a cutthroat razor, which we were looking at the other day. I've actually demonstrated flint in a school, and I've used this, for example, to cut things like leather, because it will work against leather. I've also used it on thick corrugated cardboard and that, just to prove how dangerous this stuff is. The equivalent of an iron pair or steel pair of scissors. Absolutely fantastic stuff. So once you've got all those shards, you may be making things like spears and so on. That's fine. You just use your hammerstones and that sort of thing. But if you're going to make something like a barbed arrow, so remember when we were talking about the flat bow, this is something that they had really in the Bronze Age. Then because this is such a delicate thing to make, you can't really use hammerstones or anything like that. So what you have to use is a flaker. And like I said earlier in history, they were using antler on its own, and then they were using things like wood, for example, or bone. But this is a copper pressure flaker. So you definitely need some animal skin, some leather, to protect your hand basically. So that usually goes in the palm. And then you need to take a piece of flint, a thin piece of flint that you're going to turn into an arrow. So you rest that up on your piece of leather. It's very difficult to show you, but hopefully you can see that. So you're resting it against the leather. And then what you use the pressure flaker for is to slowly snap off little pieces. And what you're creating is that arrowhead. And like I said, I'm not going to do it in here because I'll have shards and very sharp pieces of flint everywhere. But you are literally snapping at the edges. You're biting at the edges of the flint. And what you should end up with, obviously, is that. So the answer to our Monday mystery is it is in fact a copper pressure flaker, and it's when they're starting to use metal. But you have to remember they're still using flint for a lot of things, including arrowheads like that one just there. So well done, the two that got the answer right. And remember, we will be putting a Monday mystery on every single week throughout our lockdown, or throughout the national lockdown. When we end the lockdown, which hopefully will come at some point, when the lockdown finishes, we'll continue with our Monday mystery, but just like our videos outside of lockdown, they will be as in when. We may do one a month, 2 a month, maybe 1 a week, something like that. But obviously, as we promised at the first lockdown last year, we're going to give you a video every single day. But remember to look out for a Monday mystery every Monday. And Tuesday we'll give you the answer. And if you're local to Worcester, look out for a Wednesday on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, not on YouTube, but on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Wednesday we get our hashtag Worcester Wednesday. And new for this week and new for lockdown, Friday we've also got Foodie Friday. So look out for those things. So as always, stay safe, stay in, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.